In this video I'm asking the question, is it cheating? Join me. Roll credits. Well, hi YouTube, Brian James, I'm Mega 4/3 guy with you once again for a video. And again, I'm back on the banks of the River Eden here in beautiful Carlisle at Rickaby Park. And I've just been looking at my iPad at one of the photography groups, and there's a huge discussion going on one of the threads about whether post-production is cheating or not. And this is something which crops up over and over and over again. And it's something which really sort of grates me every time I see it. Because people will say, well, you're doing a lot in post-production, you're cheating, it's not how the image really is. But what is the real image? If we take a photograph on a camera using, say, JPEG, the camera is altering that image before we even have a chance to. It's putting compression on, it's taking an awful lot of what's on that image in the first place out to make a smaller file. But not only that, it does tend to add an awful lot of the filters and effects to really make what can be a bland looking photograph, if it's shot in RAW, into something which is a lot more distinctive, a lot more standout, and a lot more what we see as a pleasant image. So just by shooting in that, we're already altering it. If you've got a camera, if ever you've used a filter on the front though, say a polarizing filter or a neutral density filter or a graduated filter, you are altering the shot. There's no doubt about it. You're changing what's there. It's not a true representation. So is that cheating? Well, I don't think so. I think it's using the photography to its best advantage. I go back to the days when I was shooting with my Olympus OM1, my film OM1, when I used to do my own developing and printing, either in black and white or in colour. Now let's just take black and white for a moment. How on earth can that be considered to be an accurate representation? There's no colour information. The vast majority of us see colours as well as luminance. We see chrominance. And to have a black and white photo in itself has got to be not a good representation of the shot. But we love them. We love the effects that it does, and we love that it actually captures something that we can see in front. When we got on to colour, we started finding that the camera would do all sorts of things to correct what we saw or not correct it. Today it's a beautiful day, it's mid-afternoon, the sun is out and it's quite a nice bright day. The light is quite white to blue to white in its temperature. So if I hold a piece of white paper up, I'll see it as white here, but the camera will probably see it as either bluish or white. It depends on how the camera's set. If I was to come back here at 7 o'clock tonight, it would be a much more red light. The colour temperature would have dropped an awful lot. I'll still see that piece of paper in front of me is white, but it'll have become more of an amber colour or even a red colour as far as the camera is concerned, if we haven't adjusted the camera in any way. So to get around that, we add or subtract some of the colour temperature and the white balance. We adjust the white balance of the camera. Is that cheating? Not only that, we're regulating the amount of light which comes in, either by holding the shutter open longer or shorter, or by adjusting the size of the aperture that the lens lets through. We're adjusting the luminance. Is that cheating? So we've got it as a raw image, say, we've got all that information. Well, that information has captured what it's got everything that's there on it. And that's fantastic, because what that's doing is it's capturing as much as we can get the camera to see. And the camera will do some adjustments, as I said, to do things like the exposure or the white balance and lots of other bits and pieces. But in a raw image, it's taking all that information, storing as much as it can in the file. When we go back and put that camera on the computer, it's similar to what I used to do when I was developing. When I developed a shot, I could change the colour characteristics and also the luminance characteristics of both colour and black and white film by altering the temperatures and altering the amount of time that the developer and fixture was in the development tank. So at that point, I was altering it. Was that cheating? I would then set myself up with the film that I'd got out and get myself a projector, and I would use that projector, my enlarger, to project an image onto photographic paper. Now, to get around some of that, I had to alter the exposure, how long that was open to the light, and also I would do things like cover certain areas to either allow more light to hit other parts or to reduce the amount of light hitting that area. Depending on what I want to do. Dodge and burn, we used to call it. And that's what I would do on there. Is that cheating? Because that's effectively what we're doing in post-production when we play around with exposure and contrast. To me, it's not cheating. To me, the image, the correct image, is the one which the creator of that image decides is right. And that's a controversial point, because people say online or face to face, you're underexposed, you're overexposed, your white balance isn't right, you haven't got this right, you haven't got that right, the contrast too high, the contrast too low. But at the end of the day, none of that matters. The creator, to me, is the person who says if it's right or wrong. They're the people who can say if they were trying to get an accurate reproduction of what they saw with their eyes, or if they want to put an artistic slant on it, or a pleasing slant on it. Only them. Everyone else can give their opinions and critique, but it doesn't mean to say it's right. The only person who can be right on this is the photographer who took the photograph and the person who's taken that image and done the post-production on it. Now, if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to hit the subscribe button below and give me a big thumbs up to get YouTube's algorithms to spread to more and more people. And also, if you're enjoying it, there's a link below for a PayPal if you want to buy me a cup of coffee. So we've got other tools available to us. That's true. I tend to use Lightroom and Photoshop an awful lot for my photographs. When I was doing photographs of people, especially younger people, especially teenagers, you'd have an awful lot of acne on a lot of those kids who, that isn't the normal look. That's something which is a transient phase in them quite often. And often I would try and either smooth out the acne somewhat or get it to disappear. Small spots which appear every so often, I would just blank out. I would just literally clone them out. Is that cheating? Well, it is, because it's not an accurate representation of that person. But let's face it, if you're going back, you're little Johnny and you have your school photograph taken, in 20 years' time, do you want to be reminded of all the acne you had, or do you want to see the young face that you really had? Because that spot which is there, last week probably wasn't there, and next week possibly won't be there. But it's there at the time of the photograph being taken. That's different to taking things like birthmarks out the way or natural skin blemishes, because they're what make the personality. But is it cheating to take some acne away from somebody? I think not. As I say, I use Lightroom and Photoshop an awful lot, and there's all sorts you can do on those. And there are limits. There are some limits as to what you do. But I don't think that any cheating is cheating in itself. When it becomes cheating for me is when you start to try and pass it off as something which it's not. And this is where I do have a concern. When we're selling photographs which were deliberately liquefied to try and get people's shapes different, to try and make things which are not really possible in the world, and then make people live up to the ideals of that. And I'm thinking things like fashion shots where you can make somebody unnaturally thin or unnaturally slim, or you can change their image to something which is not really physically or healthily possible, and then selling those photographs off as being the true image. I think that's where we have problems with cheating. That is a problem for me. But it is quite a narrow band. But what do you think? Do you think it's cheating to use post-production? Do you really think that it's in the photographer or the post-producer's eyes as to what's correct and what's not? Let me know in the comments below. I'm really interested to hear what you think. But as I say, for me, I think the idea of using any post-production, so long as it's done ethically, is a good thing. And I still stand by the thing that if I make a good shot in my eyes, I don't really bother what anybody else thinks, apart from maybe using that critique to learn from and to improve my shots. But the overall shot, if I'm happy with it, then it's correct. Tell me what you think. But until the next time, keep on taking your photographs, keep on enjoying your photography. This is Brian James saying bye-bye, have fun with your camera. Bye.